Welcome to the 411 Sportsworld podcast, where we bring you the real sports talk, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, tennis, Sportsline debates. You want it, we got it. We give you clear, concise sports knowledge for fans of sports across the globe. Now, introducing the panel of experts, Zach, the calculator, and your host, Mr. 411.
All right. Welcome, sports fans. It is Tuesday, September 29th. This is our college tailgate edition. How's the panel doing today?
Doing great.
Feeling good, Mr. 411, feeling good.
All right, that's what's up. We had a great weekend of college action. Tonight's show, we're going to review some of the action from over the weekend, some of the key games, and we're going to give you a preview of the upcoming week as well, because there's some huge matchups. Now, before we do that, Zach, calculator. Hey, guys. There's a lot of talk about Fournette and Nick Chubb. They both had monster days, monster starts to their season. And it just got me to thinking, guys, what of all your years watching college football, just think about it for a moment. And let's just have a brief discussion about who, if you had to select one college running back of all time, who would it be? Who was your favorite running back? Calculate.
What about you, Zach? Why don't you go first?
I was a little bit too young for Bo and Herschel to really appreciate them. So I'd probably go Barry Sanders.
Ooh,
Barry Sanders was amazing when he was at Oklahoma State. I mean, his record still stands as far as rushing yards. He was phenomenal to watch, and you just always wondered what it was that he was going to do. So that's my guy.
My guy would have to actually be when growing up in high school and college, being a Florida State fan at that time. One of the guys I would cheer for as the guy that I watched would be Warwick Dunn. You know, he didn't break records. He didn't, rush for, a lot of yards, but he was very versatile. A lot of times if you needed 3 yards, he'd get you 5 yards. If you needed 10 yards, he'd get you 12 yards. A lot of times he just got what was needed. He could catch the screen pass. He could also pick up blitzes. And he was always, never had to get out of the game, even though they ran a lot of that hurry-up offense in Florida State. And, just following him and following the Noles and being a Noles fan, it was a joy to watch Warwick Dunn do not only the dirty work, but also, show off what he could do when he did get the ball.
Hey, both of those are great answers, guys. And, for me, I had to think about it for a moment. And, kind of a little bit of what you both were saying, like, you were a Florida State fan, calculator, and Zach, as you mentioned, we were around when Bo and Herschel were playing, but we really didn't get the full view of that. But my running back, as far as college that I can recall that I watched, Marshall Faulk.
Yeah.
He was amazing. I made sure I tuned in every week to watch San Diego State, just to see what this kid was going to do out there on the field. And he was amazing with the receiving, with the rushing. I mean, San Diego State running back, and you're in the Heisman, conversation. That was my guy right there. So to watch, mainly because his versatility, but man, it was just amazing. And out there in that WAC conference,
Oh yeah.
There was a lot of high-scoring games out there, so it was exciting. So Yeah, that's good, man. Good answers from the panel. I like that.
Yeah, it also gave you a reason to stay up till 12:30 at night to watch some football.
Hey, exactly.
Absolutely, because they always came on like 9:30.
Yep. Yes, they did. Came on late, but hey, we were watching.
I don't know if y'all did this, but even though I was in high school, I still had to go to bed at a certain time. But I lay in the bed, turn the TV off, and then once I know my parents went to bed, turn the TV back on.
Yeah.
And tune into the West Coast game. So that great memories. Great memories.
Absolutely.
And guess what, guys? Speaking of memories, it was a memorable weekend in sports. So, before we get into our previews for next week, for this upcoming weekend of games, slate of games, and before we review the games from this past weekend, here's the news and notes.
And now, of course, it's about time for news and notes. Friday, September 25th, Stanford beat Oregon State 42-24. LSU Tigers defeated Syracuse Orange 34-24. In an upset, the Blue Devils stung the 20th ranked Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets 34, Georgia Tech 20. Georgia Bulldogs took a huge bite out of Southern University Jaguars 48-6. Michigan Wolverines 31, BYU zip. UCLA 56 to Arizona's 30. Utah defeats Oregon 62-20. The USC Trojans 42 over Arizona State. Sun Devils with a mere 14. Again, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, tennis, Sportsline debates, you want it, we got it. We give you clear, concise sports knowledge. Again, introducing the panel of experts, Zach, the calculator, and your host, Mr. 411. Thanks for listening.
The voice upstairs. And now, guys, it's time to get into the games from this past weekend. Utah. They smoked the Ducks. Let's jump right into this one, Zach. Why did Utah win with in such a large, wide margin there?
Because Oregon's not that good. I mean, that's the easiest way to say it, but this is why I hate the college rankings when you come into a season, because everyone bases the rankings off of what happened last year. But last year had nothing to do with what's going to go on this year. Oregon was breaking in a new quarterback who was injured, and you got to think part of the reason they were doing that is because they didn't have confidence in the guys they had on campus. They lost some defensive people, and more than anything, Chip Kelly's in the NFL, along with Marcus Mariota. And businesses do this all the time. They think just because a understudy or subordinate was there with the guy that was making all these things happen, that the subordinate can do the same thing as the guy that was there and in charge. And sometimes it doesn't work like that. And I think we're seeing that now. I know the coach got to the national championship game last year, but he's not Chip Kelly, and he doesn't have Marcus Mariota. So 62 points surprised me, and that happening in Oregon. But I'm not surprised that the team isn't necessarily what was expected to be.
Man, my goodness, but that was a thrashing in Eugene, and my goodness, the point spread on that game, it was Utah. Oregon was according to Vegas, Oregon was giving Utah points. So, calculator, what's the deal, man?
Yeah, Oregon was given double digits. They have been dominant in the past at home, and I think the public and Vegas alike has, they've seen Oregon almost, return when they don't return players, they get new players in, they reload. And when you look at, they were blowing teams out with Akili Smith, and then, then with Healy is Joey Harrington, and then, they just kept bringing in new guys. They had a system, and I think this is where it kind of catch up with them that, they really didn't like the new guy, so they went and got a transfer, and he was, adequate. But even though they said, we can score all these points, they totally neglected the defense. And I think this was an important shake. A lot of people don't think about it, but this could shake up the national picture, playoff picture, for the mere fact that who has the best resume just to this point? Well, I would have to say it's probably Utah right now. I mean, Michigan State, they barely beat Oregon, okay? Oregon had a chance to beat them on the last drive of the game. And then Michigan did what they did to BYU. So they say, hey, Michigan's good. Well, guess what? Michigan went to Utah and got their butt kicked, okay? Utah has beaten teams. They play that physical style of ball. It was just too much. I mean, Oregon could outscore these lesser teams that they were playing. They were giving up 30 points to William & Mary. And well, that's fine. But you're not going to give up, that many points to Utah and then expect to score against that defense. Utah has defense. They have a running game. The quarterback showed he can do what he can do. Utah will be a force to reckon with. Unfortunately, for Utah, they're going to have to play that Pac-12 schedule. So they're still going to have to pay a USC, who showed that they were pretty good last week. They're still going to have to play, UCLA, who has been phenomenal so far. They have to go to a Pac-12 championship. So I mean, they're going to have a full slate, and if they can go with one loss, any Pac-12 team with just one loss, they're making it to the national championship. Okay, and I would say. And Utah, everybody was sleeping on Utah. Everybody was talking about UCLA, USC, Stanford, everybody. Nobody talked, Arizona, people were talking about Arizona State. Nobody talked about Utah. But Utah went under the radar, and now they put an exclamation point and said, and now they put the bullseye on their chest saying, hey, we're going to be a team to reckon with. And I think that was definitely a statement game. And I think that's why they kept scoring. They said, hey, Oregon did this to us all the time. Now we're putting it back on Oregon. So very impressed with Utah and the ball they play, type of ball they play.
All right. Now, how about let's go to the state of Texas. There was a high-scoring basketball game played there. TCU at Texas, and what an ending to that ball game. Zach, I know you was tuned into this matchup. What did you see with, as far as TCU, hanging on with the last second miracle touchdown reception from Boykin, thrown by Boykin at the end? What was your take on that game?
Well, TCU, I think, justified the faith that everybody had in their offense, and for most games, they're going to be able to put up a lot of points. Their Achilles heel on offense is going to be the lack of probably a consistent running game that they can count on. But offense is going to put up points. Unfortunately, they're going to have a tough time with that defense. So they're going to have to, get into 50 to 49 shootouts.
Yeah.
With almost everybody. But I think playing in the Big 12, especially the way they play defense over there, TCU should have enough to still win the conference, and they'll be in contention for the spot in the college football playoff. I don't think they're going to win it because a team that's giving up high 40s, low 50 points a game, they're not going to win the national title. I'm just not going to believe until I see it. But they'll have a good chance to be in the college football playoff because I think the SEC is going to give themselves some losses. The ACC might not be in contention for it. Wow. I see Notre Dame falling out of the picture, and the Pac-12 is going to give themselves some losses. So TCU has a great chance to be in there, and as long as you're in there, that's all you can ask for.
All right. That's true. And, all roads still lead to the big matchup with TCU and Baylor. And What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Calculator?
Oh, I mean, this was by far one of the most exciting games of the year so far. You talked about, that last touchdown that was off the Dotson's hands, and he just wanted to tip it in the air because he knew he couldn't get a hand on it. And then this, the unknown running back coming, catching it, reminisce of an old Nebraska game that I remember not too long. Or well, it was actually a few years ago. But anyway, yeah. My point is, time flies.
Time flies, buddy.
Absolutely. So but the thing is, what made it even more exciting is Texas Tech gets the ball back. They're going down the field, a couple passes, and then all of a sudden we have the lateral show. I mean, it was unbelievable. Seeing that big offensive lineman rumbling and doubling. I mean, I thought he was going to score. He was just so slow. And they had TCU had all these guys in the end zone to begin with that came up. And it was it was amazing. And I loved the game. Games like that, there's not a lot of defense to play, but again, it gives you something to look forward to. Like, what is Texas Tech going to do this week? Well, guess what? They get to play Baylor. Okay, not much time for that defense to rest up. But I have and just to let folks know, the over under on that on that Texas Tech game was 84. And they had that pretty much by the end of the third quarter, so that's what it tells you. And then I looked up the over-under on this Baylor Texas Tech. It's already at 90. I have never seen an over-under at 90. And you know what? I think they could both surpass that. Is what's so crazy. So yeah, looking forward. That was the most. That was one
which
of the most
is why they're not serious contenders for the title.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically who has the ball last. And the game's never over. So. But, I have to admit, it was an exciting game.
Yeah, it was very entertaining. And, I wish both of those teams were in the NFL. And I had all the receivers and all the quarterbacks. I would have won my FanDuel this weekend with that type of performance. UCLA at Arizona. This was the big game of the weekend. You had game day, the game day crew. You had Arizona went out and bought these all red uniforms. This was supposed to be the night that the Wildcats run wild on the Bruins, and man, UCLA with another Pac-12 blowout on the road. So where does UCLA stand? Let's go with you, Calculator.
Well, they made another statement. They they kind of had a letdown against BYU. Escaped with a victory, showed that their defense can play when needed. But they showed here they were on the road. They have a true freshman quarterback, and this guy's no joke. He was hitting those receivers in stride. And in Arizona, they just didn't have an answer for it. And then Arizona, couldn't move the ball in the first half. UCLA, Jim Mora has those guys playing. Or should I say Jim Mora Jr. has those guys playing. He's recruited well. He has UCLA back on the map. He's trying to take over the conference from USC, and I think he's there. And he's going to at least have this quarterback for 3 years. And so, so for him to do what he's doing with a freshman quarterback who's living up to expectations is pretty amazing. And we show that their offense can play, their defense kind of let up in the second half, which is fine. They knew they had a comfortable lead. Wanted to get some of the JV in there, get some reps. Don't want to tire it's a long season. They want to keep their starters healthy. So I was impressed with UCLA. Just when you think that quarterback, that true freshman isn't as good as advertised, just watch him. He's a special player, and I cannot wait to see UCLA play Utah when they do match up. That's going to be a great game.
That's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great game. Zach, what are your thoughts, buddy?
I got to be honest. After watching some of those key games in Pac-12 this weekend, I'm skeptical about how good the Pac-12 really is. I mean, UCLA, looked good. They went in there and they ran all over. Arizona. They really took it to Arizona. But, if you look at some of the teams that UCLA beat, BYU just got blasted by Michigan. And Virginia isn't that good. So I need to see more from UCLA before I get all crazy with him. And the freshman, he's been I guess he's been a typical freshman. He's had peaks and he's had valleys. And if you just let him sit back there like most quarterbacks and you don't send any heat at him, he suffered defense. But in the previous game, you send some heat at him, he plays like a freshman. So I need to see more from UCLA, but the good thing for UCLA is they kept their name in the hat as far as being part of the college football playoff. So a big win for them, and they just got to keep going. And they got to do more for me to be a believer. And right now, if I had to pick someone that was a leader in the clubhouse to win the Pac-12, I'd go with Utah because Utah's resume looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Utah Utes, man, they're for real. They're the real deal. They've been a quality, program for a while, and they even
that's one of the reasons
opponents.
That's one of the reasons Pac-12 when they expanded wanted Utah to come into their conference.
Yeah,
because they knew they played quality ball.
Yeah, great move.
Utah coach doesn't get enough credit, but he's been very good for a long while, and it's not like Utah is producing a whole lot of blue chip recruits. So they do the thing that a lot of people at other schools should do, like Texas, is coach players up. It doesn't matter how many stars they are if you don't coach these guys and help bring them to their full potential. And the coaching staff of Utah does a great job of that.
Yeah. They're taking a lot of the people that USC and UCLA aren't taking on. They say they're not going to the big time program, so playing with a chip on the shoulder, and like you said, the coach is exploiting that, so playing it up.
And that's what you have to do, There's plenty of players out here in the world, football players, so all of them can't play at all the schools. But if you can get the talent and get the talent, they'll get that talent that has been overlooked or, may have been missed in the cracks there, but you take them, implement them in your program, things like this can happen. And, that's the importance of developing players and, the maturation of players as well. So, that's great, and I'm glad to see a team like Utah in the mix. Mm-hmm. Man, that was an impressive victory by UCLA, man, 56-30. But I'm gonna tell you something else that was impressive. In the Georgia versus the Southern Jaguars game, Nick Chubb,
man,
he tied Herschel Walker consecutive games with rushing TDs, so on and so on. That was impressive. But there was a kid that plays for Southern, Devin Gales, and he suffered a spinal injury, and I'm not going to go into too much detail with that. I'll leave that to his family. But what was impressive was how the Georgia Bulldog family stepped up, from the sports medicine team to Rick, Mark Rick, to everything that they did along the way and are still doing for this kid, in support of him. That was impressive, and, have to tip our hats to the University of Georgia for that, and also to Southern Jaguars. They came in and played hard. That game was on the SEC Network, and, I was actually on the phone with Zach, and he was giving me some in-depth information on how Southern was actually, how they were executing, but they were just a little bit short on the talent side of things. But, again, impressive. I'm very impressed by Georgia and how they handled that situation with the young man.
Yeah, because they could have been looking ahead and, been a lot closer than a lot of people, would have thought. But, they kept their mind straight, took care of business.
Yeah. So, the next order of business. Let's talk about some of these games for next week. For this upcoming week. Here's the slate. Mississippi State at Texas A&M. Ole Miss at Florida. West Virginia at Oklahoma. The big game on ABC. Notre Dame versus Clemson. Oh, it's on the ABC network, excuse me. And then Alabama at UGA. So, Mississippi State at Texas A&M. Panel, give me your thoughts on this matchup. This is going to be a game that's going to be on the SEC network, and it's going to be played at Cal Field, College Station, Texas, and it should be a battle. Mississippi State has worked their way into the top 25, and they're going to face Texas A&M, who had an impressive victory last weekend over Arkansas. So, Zach, you grew up in the state of Arkansas for part of your life. I'm gonna let you go ahead and take the first pitch here on Mississippi State at Texas A&M.
Well, the problem with a lot of this going on in college right now is I think this year, more so than any other year, is it's hard to get a clear picture on anybody. Because just when you think somebody's good, they pull an Oregon and they go get blowed out, and it makes you have to reevaluate Michigan State's victory over them. And then when you think somebody's bad, they turn around and they go beat somebody, like a Mississippi State. So I'm going to go with Texas A&M because they're playing at home.
Okay.
I don't like that A&M has a lack of a running game. I'd like to see them get better at running the ball, but that's just something that they're not going to do right now. Either it's because of philosophy or they don't have the right running back. And I don't think Mississippi State can line up and punch that defensive line of Texas A&M in the mouth like Arkansas did, because Texas A&M's D-ends and maybe the D-line in general is kind of sort of more of a finesse defensive line than a power line like you would get at Alabama or Ohio State. So if you watch the Arkansas game, Arkansas really lined up and ran down their throats. Pretty much at will. But when it came to passing situations, A&M got after them. So I'm going to say Texas A&M wins this game 31-24.
All right, 31-24. That's still going to be an exciting matchup, and I hope the score is somewhere right in that range because that gives me a good mix of some hard hitting action and some points on the board. How about you, Calculator?
I have to actually agree with Zach on the makeup of the defensive line for Texas A&M. They are a finesse type of line. They would be a line that would be great in shootout type, spread type offenses. Unfortunately, the SEC does have a lot of power running teams. That's why it was, a pretty close game against Arkansas, because Arkansas is a ground and pound team, so, they are able to run. The thing is, Mississippi State does not have the O-line that Arkansas had. They are going to probably try and rely on the pass a lot. Good for them, lucky for them. Prescott can power run if he needs to. He can scramble to keep it alive. I just don't think he's going to be able to get away from those defensive ends as easily as he was against, say, Auburn last week. The problem with Mississippi State, though, is their secondary. Texas A&M can throw the ball. Texas A&M has some of the best set of receivers in the SEC. And their quarterback is still growing. He's getting better, and he can actually, run when needed. He's someone, got a guy that he likes to go with. So, and I'm still waiting for that little freshman they got who is on Texas A&M. for those who watched the Arizona State game, that's a special little player. Never lost a high school game in his high school Texas career, and he can run, one of the fastest guys on the field. So they have a lot of parts. I think Mississippi State is just going to basically run out of options on how to defend A&M. I think A&M will do enough on defense to, anytime it's a 3rd and long, they'll release the hounds, and Dak Prescott's going to have to make that throw. And he's just not going to have the same time he had last week. And he's going to find out how good that D-line is when it is 3rd and long. So I actually think Texas A&M's going to win a little bit more, because I don't think Mississippi State's going to score in the 20s. I actually have them around 17, but I do have A&M in the 30s, something like a 31-17 is what I have. So I have it a little bit of a lopsided affair, just because I think Mississippi State just doesn't match up well against A&M.
Okay. And it sounds like that'll be a great top 25 matchup. And we have another top 25 matchup in the Southeastern Conference. We'll stay there. ESPN has this game. It's going to be on at 7 p.m. at the Swamp in Gainesville, Florida. The 3rd-ranked Ole Miss Rebels will do battle with the number 25, the 25th-ranked Florida Gators. Florida is off to a 4-0 start. Ole Miss is on a roll as well. I mean, they just beat Alabama. Now they had in my opinion, they had a tough battle with Vanderbilt. Could be a little bit of maybe a letdown effect, possibly, but Vanderbilt has been playing a little defense there. But we're going to get your thoughts, Zach, on this SEC tilt.
Well, Florida's supposed to have a pretty good defense, so I'm expecting the defense to show up. If the defense doesn't show up, then Florida doesn't have a chance to stay in this game. Ole Miss is -7, and honestly, I don't think Florida's defense is going to hold. So I think Ole Miss wins this game by 10+ easily. And just because Florida right now, really all they can do is run the ball. They have really good skilled athletes. Fred Taylor's son is I want to say Kelvin Taylor's a very good young running back. They got a receiver, I think DeMarcus Robinson out of Peach County area. He's a nice wide receiver, good pro prospect, probably a late round pick at this point because he just hasn't had the production at Florida. And Florida's offensive line isn't necessarily terrible. I mean, it's Florida. They have recruits, but the problem is they don't have a quarterback, and you can't hide your quarterback anymore. You'd like to believe that Florida, or at least Florida would like to believe that they can hand the ball off 40+ times and win the game, but that's not going to happen against Mississippi with Kim Dichie and the rest of that land shark defense. So, as I said, as much as I'd like to say it's going to stay close, probably somewhere in the late 3rd, early 4th quarter, Florida's defense is going to get fatigued, and this probably ends up being a 34-17 game.
Okay, 34-17. What are your thoughts, Calculator?
This is a total mismatch between Ole Miss and Florida. Yeah, Florida, and Zach I'll give him props again. The defense for Florida is very talented, but from what I saw against Tennessee, they're in trouble. I mean, they had a miracle in them, and they got it. But they're not going to have the same thing happen to Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss is going to shut down the run. They're just going to play their defensive line. They're going to shut them down, and you're going to get that quarterback trying to throw into zone coverage. There's going to be a couple turnovers, and Ole Miss, what they showed is they can turn turnovers into points, and I think that's where they're just going to overwhelm Florida. The defense will keep it relatively close early on, but I think kind of like the Vanderbilt game. The Vanderbilt game, Vanderbilt has a very solid defense. Underrated, I would say. I mean, they want to point to that to the opening game they lost to Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky has one of the top offenses in the country. Okay, even though it's a smaller program, those guys can play offense. But Vanderbilt shut them out. So Vanderbilt has a solid defense. I think, it was coming expected, let down. They always talk about the letdown in college is real. These are still young people, young kids. So, they had a draining win at Alabama. So, but now they're getting they're rested up. I think they're going to take what they're going to be ready for the game. They're going to hit. They're hearing the people say, "Oh man, maybe they're not that good because against Vanderbilt." I think they're going to exert their defense. They're going to rely on their running game. They're going to pass a couple long ones to Prescott. They are going to do. Treadwell, and they're going to do some damage. I think they win rather easily. I only actually have Florida scoring 10 points in this game. So you're looking at a 34 type 10, rather lopsided. But I think Ole Miss is back on track this week.
All right. Well, we'll definitely tune in. We'll tune in to ESPN as well, and see if Ole Miss can keep it rolling. They definitely will probably do a little scoreboard watching because there's another team that we're going to cover in a few that they're definitely keeping their eyes on within the SEC conference. Now, let's move to another conference here. There's a Big 12 battle between the number 23, the 23rd ranked West Virginia Mountaineers and the 15th ranked Oklahoma Sooners. This game is going to be on Fox Sports 1 at 12 noon. So this is a great way to get your day started. Great
absolutely.
Great battle. I mean, start your day off with this action. So, Zach, can West Virginia pull the upset?
No, they don't score well enough on offense. They're more defense-oriented this year. And Dana Holgerson, he's got a very good offensive mind, but he just doesn't have the skill players, and this isn't like back in Rich Rodriguez's time when he was really going down to Florida and bringing those guys up there. So they'll put up a good fight. West Virginia is definitely going to have a respectable year this year, but it's a little too much to ask, in my opinion, for them to go to Oklahoma and win this game.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that Oklahoma is going to just blow the doors off of them, because Oklahoma had some offensive issues of their own, as was shown against Tennessee. This is a solid Oklahoma team, but this isn't one of Bob Stoops' better teams that he can just bring to town and put up half 100 on people. I'm going to give a score of 31-20, and it'll kind of not become a game, towards maybe the last 6 to 4 minutes, and that score won't be indicative of what type of game it is. But West Virginia doesn't have the horses right now. They got to get better. And Bob Stoops, as I said at the beginning of the season, he's a top 5 coach. He will have his guys ready, and he's going to keep Oklahoma in a position this year, I believe, to win the Big 12. And I'm not going to necessarily say challenge for the college football playoff, but this game will be key for Oklahoma's hopes to keep going there, because they got to get as many wins as they can to make sure they're in position to take advantage of the games against Baylor and TCU.
Okay. It's all about positioning right now. What are your thoughts, calculator?
These are two of the better defensive teams in the Big 12. I mean, we've already highlighted offense that can be played in that conference. These are two teams that have good defenses. West Virginia's been very surprising to me as far as, granted they are a little lacking on offense. You know, losing their wide receiver to the NFL has hurt them because he was a dynamic playmaker. A lot of times he could take games over. He can't do it while he can't do it for West Virginia in the NFL. So you know, their defense will keep them in a lot of games this year, but. You know, Oklahoma, I think they're one of those dark horses. You know, a lot of people, you know, don't know. Yes, this is not one of Bob Stoops, better teams, but I think he's getting better week by week. He showed that they have a lot of resilience when they were down big to Tennessee. He rallied the troops at halftime. He is one of the best in-game adjustment type coaches. So, you know, when I have two teams which I think are equally on defense. They're both really good on defense, really sound. I think if you have the edge in quarterback, which Oklahoma does, if you have the edge in the running game, which Oklahoma does, and if you have the edge in the head coach, which Oklahoma does, you have to go with Oklahoma. You know, I think they do score enough to win that game. I'm thinking they'll be in the 20s, something like 24, 17, something like that. I think West Virginia could get a late touchdown if Oklahoma starts, playing back, wanting them to run clock. So, somewhere around there, a 24-17 score looks about right.
Okay. All right. So there you have it in the Big 12 battle. Oh man. Later on that night, College Game Day, they're heading to the state of South Carolina, and there's a huge matchup on ABC. The number 6 Notre Dame Fighting Irish, they're going to have a tough road test versus the 12th team in the land, Clemson Tigers. This game is going to be held at Memorial Stadium in Clemson, South Carolina, and we all will be tuned in for this one. Now, can Notre Dame stay undefeated with this tough road test? Zach?
Well, this is a college football playoff elimination game to me. The loser of this is out of it. And if you want to go with the odds makers, they have Clemson at -1. And most times teams at home, if you're the better team, you get a -3 because that's supposed to be the even up the field. So the fact that Clemson is -1 tells you what people think about Clemson. I want to see what Clemson got because I'm a believer in Notre Dame. And I got to give Brian Kelly credit that he really has this team prepared to play. I didn't have much faith in them in the beginning of the year. I thought it was going to be the typical Notre Dame, all the rah, and all of this, and then they go out and lose 3-4 games. But they've shown some resiliency, and while they haven't really beat anybody, they're executing what they're doing, and they're finding ways to win, and the defense is legitimate defense. So I need to see what Clemson has. I need to see what all this hoopla is about Deshaun Watson, that he's a Heisman Trophy candidate and everything, because he hasn't proved it yet. He hasn't been very impressive thus far this year. And Dabo Swinney, while he has put together some solid seasons, he gets a lot of hype too. He runs his mouth a lot. It's time for him to kind of, win one of these games or, win another one of these games so he can get Clemson back on the map the way that he kind of hypes them up to be. But unfortunately, I don't think this happened this week. I think Clemson loses at home and they get eliminated from the college football playoff. I have Notre Dame going down there, finding a way to win, and they win 27-23.
Wow, that's a good score. Sounds like an exciting game, and as you say, if this is the college elimination playoff game here, to say, then no wonder College Game Day is in town. It's not just because it's Notre Dame, and this is a big matchup here. A lot at stake. Calculator, do you agree?
I agree that it is a college eliminator game. I agree that if you're in the ACC, you have to run the table to get to the playoff. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Just because you have, the ACC is, just only you got 3 or 4 teams. And with Georgia Tech being on the decline the way it is, that hurts your chances even more. So, so I agree, that it is an elimination game. Although Clemson has at times looked pedestrian. But I think it's almost like it looks like they're going through the motions, But I think they're going to be at home, Death Valley. I mean, that place is crazy. When those players, rub that rock, it almost like it amplifies their powers. I've seen it firsthand. So I like the quarterback. I even like the coach. I personally, because being a Florida State fan, we have to face them every year. But I respect them. But I mean, they got speed on the defense, and a lot of people say, or don't believe in Notre Dame, and what else can Notre Dame do to make you believe? Well, I'm still not a believer. I'm sorry. They pounded Virginia. Okay, yeah, they beat Georgia Tech. Well, Duke beat Georgia Tech. So it's like, okay, this is the show me game. Notre Dame, I'm telling them the Golden Domers. Okay, you beat Clemson, you got my respect. You will be a player to reckon with. But until then, I'm still not a believer. That's why I think Clemson wins it. I think home field advantage will be the difference. I think there's going to be a lot of. I actually think the quarterback could get rattled. I mean, he's still working his way into to the offense. I mean, he's still not totally accurate. Yeah, he looks good. Well, that defense allows him to look good. Well, I think Clemson's going to score enough to where it's going to rattle him. He's going to make some mistakes. And although I think that Notre Dame will keep it close, I think the difference will be Clemson's quarterback. I actually have Clemson winning 24-21, late field goal.
All right. Sounds like it's going to be an exciting game, and both of you have it a pretty tight one. So I'll definitely be tuning in for that. But before that game, all roads lead to Athens.
Yes,
We're talking about the number 13 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide heading in to Athens to face the 8th ranked Georgia Bulldogs, who are at 4-0. And, Nick Chubb is fresh off of tying Herschel Walker with 100 yards rushing in 22 consecutive games. So the running game is going to be a factor. But Alabama has that tough front seven. They gave up a lot of points versus Ole Miss, but, outside of that, Alabama's been pretty solid. And I just want to get you guys' take on this. This is a huge game, fellas. And, Calculator, we're going to let you kick this one off.
Okay, which is a good idea because I can't wait to do my analysis and then hear Zach on his take. But
absolutely,
every time I think of a big matchup that Georgia comes into, I still think back to the time when they came out with the black shirts, against Alabama, and Nick Saban he crushed them. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I mean, he showed why he is one of the best coaches in college football. Yes, a lot of people want to point to his quarterback situation. This is one of the few times that, he doesn't have his quarterback ready to his liking. But I still think that running back he has is one of the best running backs he's ever had at Alabama. And they've had some awesome running. I mean, they have produced running backs that are in the NFL. Okay, and he's one of the best. Offensive line strong. I think the front seven. I think this is the first time you're going to see them make Chubb earn everything he can get. I mean, he's going to make it earn every yard. I think Lambert is going to have to win the game for him. I said it on the show against South Carolina, and I ate crow. He showed that he can pass the ball. But, this team, their defense is a little bit better than South Carolina. Granted, it's going to help them being at home, having the crowd behind you and everything. I don't see it. I don't see Alabama making all the mistakes. I think they got all their mistakes out of the way in the Ole Miss game. I think they're going to come ready to play. Their backs are against the wall. I need to ask Dak if he thinks the black jerseys are coming out this weekend. But I think no matter what, I think Nick Saban is going to have his troops ready. I think they win the game. I think it's a close game, though. I mean, I can't wait. This is, if you can't get pumped up for this game, I don't know. And I'm a totally unbiased person, so I have no dog in this fight. But I love seeing two top-notch teams play each other. I wish we would have some of these Ohio States play big games in the middle of the year instead of, one game out of the year. So that's why I love Alabama. I mean, they're battle tested. They're gonna play team after team, and I think they're gonna win this one. But I still think Georgia has a shot. I think this is the only game UGA loses. I think they will go to the SEC title, and that will be their chance to get to the playoff picture. I think they lose this one, but I don't want Georgia fans to, want to jump off the ledge, because even if they lose this one, they are still the heavy favorite to go to the SEC title game with one loss and then get into the playoff picture if they win that game. So, but I have, like I said, I do have Alabama winning. I have them kicking, a few field goals. I have it, it's still going to be a low scoring game because both defenses are very physical. But I have Alabama, at 20-17, another field goal kick to win. I think Alabama just scores just enough, and I think their defense holds up just enough to hold on for the win. But I can't wait to hear what that says.
Yeah. Hey, CBS Network, 3:30, October 3rd, for those who don't know. Zach, the floor is yours.
Well, Georgia is -2. So we just went over the thing earlier that usually a home team is going to get -3 if they think it's a even kind of straight up game, because they usually take 3 points away from the road team because you're playing on the road. So that means odds makers believe that Alabama is the favorite here. But I think it's a setup. They want people to bet Alabama because they know Georgia's going to win. Now, let's go with some crazy stats here. Alabama, early this year against Ole Miss, 43 points. Alabama, college football playoff against Ohio State University, 42 points. Before that, against Auburn, 44 points. Year prior to that, in a bowl game, 45 points to Oklahoma. And that same year, 42 points to Texas A&M, 34 points to Auburn. I mean, at one time they were clamoring for Kirby Smart to be the head coach at the University of Georgia because they didn't like what Mark Richt was doing. And I don't think anybody's trying to get him to be their head coach now. Alabama hasn't covered anybody since when? Maybe 2011? They can't cover anybody. Their front seven is good. Their front seven is not all world. I mean, a lot of what Alabama is mystique, is hype, is Coach Saban. Coach Saban gets his head cracked sometimes, for as good as he is, and I said he's the number one coach, but he's not infallible. He takes his lumps depending on what it is, what's going on. And they don't have a quarterback. You cannot hide your quarterback anymore. Your quarterback has to make plays. Alabama has a good tackle, and I want to say I think it's a center that's good. But from an offensive line standpoint, Georgia's offensive line is better. I mean, talk about Chubb all you want. Talk about, hey, he's finally going to have to go up against a real defense. The offensive line is the key. You win games and lose games in the trenches. If your line can block the other team's line, or if the other team's defensive line can push your line back and you're controlling line of scrimmage, that's what's going to dictate who wins. So you'll be able to tell very early in this game what the tone is and who's going to win. I didn't like what I saw from Georgia last week in the first half against Southern because the offensive line, they didn't go out there and dominate the line of scrimmage. I don't know if they were thinking about Bama. I don't know what, but they came out there playing half-ass. Second half, what you saw is an offensive line that fired off the ball, and Nick Chubb had creases, him and Sony Michel, to get through. Grayson Lambert, he doesn't have to be an all-world quarterback. What he does have to be is efficient and execute. And he's showing week after week why it is Mark Richt got him. He's getting more comfortable. He's getting more reps. And he's executing offense. But more important to me than him, Georgia's coaching staff has been upgraded from the offensive standpoint. I didn't like Bobo. And it wasn't anything personal, not the fact that we beat him in high school en route to our state championship, 44, I want to say 20-something, intercepting like 5 times. But Bobo just didn't execute great game plans to me. He got credit for always putting up 40 points, but when you have great resources, you're going to do that. But what did he do in games like the Alabama game, i.e. the blackout? South Carolina game when they went up against Dayton Clowney, and the offense only scored 7 points and got that like in a throwaway game. Schottenheimer is a professional coach. He does things the NFL way. He understands what hurts the defense, what doesn't hurt the defense. And if you saw the South Carolina game when they opened up the offense, I don't think Alabama can stop Georgia with their front seven. They're going to have to bring a safety in the box. And when they start getting that one-on-one coverage, Alabama can't cover. But I also believe you're going to see the tight end more involved this week because Alabama's linebackers can't cover. And Georgia hasn't really used the linebackers. And as far as the defense, that's what it's going to come down to. Alabama's offense against Georgia's defense. If Pruitt is as good as they say, as good as my buddy Rob, who's a Florida State fan that keeps screaming, they're going to make sure that Alabama doesn't do like Florida did last year and run the ball 40-plus times, control the line of scrimmage, and let their quarterback get away with throwing on 6 passes. I just don't see that happen. If it does, Pruitt needs to be fired because he's not earning his damn paycheck. So I said all that to say that Georgia wins this 41-24.
Whoa.
Alabama's not that good.
Wow.
Alabama has demonstrated that they're not that good.
Can you say that score one more? Can you say that score one more time for the listeners?
41-24. And just keep this in mind too. Alabama has 8 new starters on offense. This will be their first true road game. That game against Wisconsin doesn't count. They'll actually be on the road in a hostile environment. And what Nick Saban did against Ole Miss, that's a panic move. When you bring in another quarterback that hasn't played for whatever reason, they're panicking over there. So this right here isn't really a college football playoff elimination game in the sense that if Georgia lost, they still have a chance to be in it, as the calculator said. But it is an elimination game because Alabama's going to get their second loss. And for the first time in a long time, Alabama won't be in the national championship conversation after the first week of October.
You heard it here first.
Wow.
You heard it from Zach. And Zach, just one more time, because there's a couple of fans that probably ran off the road while they was listening.
Hey, I can repeat the score.
Can you repeat that score one last time?
I'm 41-24. And just keep this in mind. For as bad as Lambert is supposed to be, he's third in quarterback rating, and he's third in QBR. And however bad he may be, if you're telling me Alabama's going to stop Georgia's running game with a 7-man front, then Georgia's going to lose. So I think anybody that understands football believes that they're going to have to bring 8 guys down to the box. So now it comes to one-on-one coverage. If Georgia's receivers can't beat Alabama's defensive back, then Georgia can't win a national championship because everybody beats Alabama's defensive back. And you've seen it for the past 3 years, maybe even past 4 years. So I think 41-24. And Chubb still gets 100 yards and breaks Herschel Walker's streak.
Oh, hey, okay. Double call there. Now, I can't wait to watch this game. I'm going to have my food already ready. I'm going to be at a fish fry, so I'm going to have my fish. I'm going to have my potato salad. I'm going to have my root beer. I'm going to be ready. Now, what I'm going to be looking for, guys, is, can Alabama keep Georgia off the field offensively? Can they keep Chubb on the sideline? So I'm looking to see if they could sustain some drives. But if they can't sustain drives, it's probably going to be because Georgia is going to get into that backfield and hit the quarterback. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. And just to back you a little bit, Zach, on what you said about Lambert, he's been hot against South Carolina and against Southern Jaguars. Those two games combined, I mean, he's 33 for 35 and 476 yards of passing.
Well, not to
let's see if he can
calculator. I mean, I'm sorry, Mr. 411, but if you go back to the second half of the Vanderbilt game after he started like 0 for 7 or 0 for 9, he's been very efficient, very active with his passes.
Yeah, so we'll definitely see if he can keep that up, and he definitely will be in the friendly confines between the hedges, so that would also help as well, in my opinion. Guys, that game right there is the one. So I know everyone, all college football, will be tuned in for that one on CBS 3:30 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time, because the game is in the state of Georgia. Now, our big topic for tonight, besides that matchup, after all the games and after all the predictions and after everything has, come to pass after Saturday, everyone's going to wonder, okay, what 4 teams deserve to be considered, deserve to be in this playoff. So, for entertainment purposes here, and I'm going to, because you guys are very knowledgeable, and the fans, they need to know this. You only can pick 4 teams. Zach, which 4 teams after this weekend will be in the college football playoffs?
After this weekend. So you changed the question up on me. But after this weekend, give me
yes, sir.
Give me 2 seconds so I can talk to my personal assistant real quick and get an update on who's playing and who's not playing, just so I can get a quick overview of who might change based on schedule. Any upsets out there? That's interesting. Okay. Since you said after this weekend, I gotta do this real quick. I'm gonna give you.
One second, please. I like the fact that you have a personal assistant. Okay, carry on back.
Okay. Ole Miss will be in there.
Okay.
Georgia will be in there.
All right.
Notre Dame will be in there.
Ooh. All right.
And let me look to see who they're playing. Utah will be in there.
Oh, I was about to say, don't leave out the Utes. They ain't gonna lose this weekend.
It's not about it's not about the losing. I'm trying to look at resumes.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if this team beats a ranked team and then this team or what have you, that's what I was trying to see. And I don't see anybody that's gonna increase their resume really more than Notre Dame and Georgia can this week. So Utah is still in.
Wow, that's an impressive list there, and again, you're also foreshadowing. So, that's what made this a very interesting topic, and I'm glad you was quick on the draw there. It shows your college football knowledge.
Well,
to be able to
clear,
put all that together.
Hey, Mr. 411, just so we're clear, Ohio State and Michigan State weren't in my top 4. Even if we were going right now. So what's happening this weekend had no effect on that. they're not in the top 4. In fact, the only team that got into the top 4 based on the things I had LSU in, and we're talking about today, but after this weekend, Notre Dame will replace LSU.
Wow. All right. And Notre Dame replaces LSU. All right. Okay. Very impressed. Calculator, it is your turn.
Well, since I have Clemson actually beating Notre Dame, that's not going to be on my list. Of course, I'm going to start off with Utah, best resume out there in my opinion. I mean, if you started, if the playoff selection committee was here, that Utah would be the number 1 seed. I also have LSU. I mean, well, look what they've done. I mean, they've beaten who they've had to beat, and they've beaten them, rather handily. And they haven't been they haven't been playing any MAC teams. You will not see a Big Ten team in this discussion until they start playing some better teams. I'm sorry, Michigan State, your Oregon victory is considered null right now. Okay, after what we saw Utah do to Oregon. So I have
calculator.
to. What's that?
8-man calculator. I said
8-man
calculator.
And then, and of course, okay, so we have Utah, we have LSU, and I'm going to go out to the ACC because I have faith in Clemson. I do not see Clemson losing a game this year. They're going to play Florida State at Clemson. They're playing Notre Dame. They got all they're going to have the resume needed to sustain to get that playoff pick. I think they go undefeated. The ACC is just not good, but I think they'll have enough. I think Florida State will be good enough to keep their ranking alive. If Clemson beats them, and I think I think they beat Notre Dame. I think that's going to be a statement win as well. And then you got to go out to the Big 12. I think TCU has done enough. They're going to win this weekend. They beat Texas Tech, which is Texas Tech is going to be a top 25 team when it's all said and done. They're going to. I mean that is a good looking team after what I saw what they did to Arkansas last week. Week before last. So Texas Tech's no joke. And TCU, they beat probably the 3rd best team in the Big Ten in Minnesota. Beat them in Minnesota. So I think TCU has done enough as far as resume building up to this point. So that's why they haven't lost. I don't see them losing this weekend. So give me a Big 12 team out there. So I like LSU just because I think they're the best team. They're the class of the SEC right now. Their quarterback's only going to get better. The offensive line is probably the best in the country. So that's why. So give me some LSU. Give me some Utah. Give me Clemson and give me TCU.
All right. Okay. Well, I have, and I'm more of a traditionalist here when it comes to this, but until I see Ohio State and or Michigan State lose a game, I have them in the playoff. I have UGA. I have the University of Georgia winning this weekend. And I think that, along with them being undefeated, that will get them in the top 4 after this weekend. And then with Notre Dame winning this weekend, that will get them in the top 4 for now. So that is my top 4. Ohio State, Michigan State, University of Georgia, Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Well, now, 411.
Yeah, because
I got to interject. How in the world do you have 2 Big Ten teams who've been beaten? You know what Michigan State has done against the spread? They are 0-4 against the spread. That basically means they hadn't beaten any team as much as they should have beaten them, according to Vegas. And we're talking about teams. I mean, they're keeping it close against Western Michigan. Are you kidding me? And Ohio State, you can say, but you say, we're talking about if the selection committee picked right now, they talk about resumes. The Big Ten does not have any resume builders. They would I guarantee if you took, after this weekend, if you looked at resumes, not one of those Big Ten teams will be in the top 4.
Well, right now they're currently ranked number 1 and number 2 in the AP. If they were, and Ole Miss is number 3 in the AP, and calculated, you don't have Ole Miss in your top 4. But
well, that's because I don't think I don't think they're as good as LSU personally. So
and Zach has Ole Miss in top 4. You have LSU. So we have some different teams. And if I add this up, it looks like we can have it
after this. But you said after this weekend, and I'm just trying to go resume. So
Ohio State. Hey, Zach. All of a sudden, Ohio State's going to jump to the number 1 because they beat up on Indiana this weekend. That's what it is.
Yeah,
undefeated Indiana.
They came into.
I have.
But the selection committee doesn't even look at the AP poll and the coaches poll. This isn't BCS formula anymore. This is going to be resumes, and I guarantee you, them playing all these MAC teams and in these directional Michigans and stuff, that ain't going to mean jack. I mean, their biggest game of the year is when they play each other. Well, guess what? They don't play anybody else. So how good can we really see how good they are?
Well, calculate if they were so bad, why are they ranked number 1 in the country if they're such a bad team?
Well,
I mean, all these schools.
Well, because you got to put somebody at number 1. I mean, that's the bottom line. You got to put somebody at number 1.
But why not put Ole Miss at number 1? Why not put Notre Dame at number 1? They beat Georgia Tech.
It's a formula. It's an opinion.
Okay.
But when you take a team that has a lot of returning players, okay, and they come back and they say, okay, well, by default, they're number 1. Well, when they step on the field, those rankings don't mean jack. I mean, we just saw what you said, the number 1 team, their biggest victory is against Virginia Tech. And we saw what Virginia Tech did against ECU this past weekend. Virginia Tech's not very good. So, I mean, they have not played anybody. So you can talk about polls, you can talk about all this, but when that selection committee looks at the resume and look at the biggest victory of Ohio State is against Hawaii or against Virginia Tech, they're going to say, and then you see LSU with victories against possibly Alabama or victories against
Syracuse,
Ole Miss. So
Auburn.
Okay. And convincingly. Am I correct?
So
you're saying Syracuse is a lot better than Hawaii, my friend.
That's what I'm saying. So playing a MAC school or Hawaii is better than playing another Power 5 school.
Hey, I'm just saying. As of right now. Okay, how about everybody play the same schedule?
Okay, but we don't do that. And
how about UGA don't open their season against UL Monroe? How about UGA open their season at UCLA?
But see,
UGA is going to play Alabama.
Right now.
UGA is going to play, Florida.
Not every year. When's the last time they played Alabama?
But that doesn't matter.
Well, it's an alternating schedule.
Okay.
And then when they're not playing Alabama, they're playing Auburn every year, and Auburn was pretty good last time I checked when they were Cam Newton, and you had Gus Malzahn running that all around and made it to the national championship game. But Georgia had to play them every year, So I mean, Georgia is playing tough teams, and I don't blame them, playing. And at least it's Monroe and not some FCS school, So yeah, you got to give Georgia a tune-up game or so because they're going to be playing in the conference. I mean, if they were playing in the conference of Big Ten, hey, I remember when Georgia was playing in the SEC, and then they're scheduling Clemson for home and homes, which is a good team.
If Athens, Georgia was in the state of Wisconsin, then maybe they'll be in the Big Ten. I mean, you can't help where a team is. I mean,
but you can help who you play with their non-conference schedule.
Here's the other thing you got to look at though. The problem is guys like you, Mr. 411, because you say, well, why doesn't Georgia play such and such every year? Well, Ohio State is never going to play anybody because guys like you are going to vote them number 1 no matter what. And that's what I'm worried about with the committee because Art Brown said it. He said, hey, if we were Texas instead of Baylor, we would have been in the college football playoff.
Actually, I think you're right on that.
it's too much name stuff going on instead of take away the name. Don't look at the name. Don't look at what you think people are going to be. Because you and Rob told me Cardell Jones was a first down.
Oh, wait a minute. Time out. Freeze. Don't say you. Say Rob.
You said that last year. Y'all said that last year. You said he should go to the NFL. And I
said he should go to the NFL because he was hot as ever. If you're going to go now, here's your chance to go if you can. I didn't say he was good enough. I'm just talking about if you want to go. Because sometimes you need to go ahead and go, as that lineman.
Ain't good enough.
Sometimes you need to go and get drafted when you can. That wasn't what my point was. Also, go ahead, and then I'll finish. Okay, but I didn't say what round. I said he should go.
Okay.
Because he was at the top. But that's fine. I mean, it's cool.
Actually, Cordell Jones was projected as a third-round draft pick. So yeah.
I heard a lot of people talking about him going in the first round, especially if you listen to first take.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something to talk about that. All I was saying was, hey, this is probably your best bet.
All-world running back. I mean, has Mr. Ezekiel Elliott been the best running back in college football this year? Not even close. Has Ohio State offensive line been the best offensive line? I mean, have their receivers been these all-world receivers? They played Virginia Tech, and everybody said, oh, my God, this is the greatest offense ever.
Then why are they ranked number one? If all this is not good.
Because, once again, people like you.
I don't have a vote.
Well, you're voting right now.
Well, yeah, you just said you just put two big teams.
I don't have a vote that counts.
This is what you're saying. If I'm Utah, I can go out there and play everybody. I can play every team that's in the top 25 and win all my games. And because I'm not Ohio State, I can't be in the top whatever. I have to wait till Ohio State loses when they ain't playing nobody. And I got to go out there and play people. Why would Ohio State ever play anybody? Like Michigan State.
There's no incentive.
Why are they ranked? Y'all tell me why they ranked number one in the country.
Okay.
Tell me why Michigan State is ranked number two.
Can I ask you a question? Mr. Fullon?
Yeah, I just asked y'all one though.
Well, okay, but may I ask you a question real quick?
Oh yeah, anytime.
Tell me why Michigan State is your number 2 team. And when I say tell me, I mean tell me based on what you've seen from their offense, defense, or whatever, or why you think they're a really good school. And if you can't do it, that's fine. But all I'm trying to do is kind of get you in the mindset of how voters are. Now, I'm with the calculator on Utah. I can tell you why I got Utah up there, because Michigan has turned out to be a pretty good school if you're watching them play. And Michigan actually could have won that game up when they played Utah if the quarterback executes on the plays that Harbaugh called. Michigan might be the best team in the Big Ten. We can't say that now, but they get to play Michigan State and Ohio State. Let's see how that plays out, because Michigan looks
exactly. Well, Michigan State looked pretty good so far this season as well.
Yes,
and guess what? Wait. You said, because Oregon lost this week or this past weekend. Now you say because who? But they scheduled Oregon. They played Oregon at that time the week before. So now you're going to take away that victory for them. You know, come on now. You can't do that.
No, we're not taking away the victory. We're just diminishing it.
You can't do that to them.
It's not good.
You can't do that to them.
They just got 62 put on them. They got 60. You know how hard
at home
to up on a team?
Okay, that's another game, another week. That's not Michigan State's fault.
Okay. So what you're telling me is come week 10 when Oregon is 5-5, Michigan State still gets credit because they beat Oregon.
What was Oregon ranked? What was Oregon ranked at the time that they played them? Wasn't that a 3 versus 5 matchup?
But that's our point.
Oh, okay,
but they didn't. People are overinflating their numbers.
They didn't play anybody. That's opinion.
The rankings don't count.
That's opinion. They didn't. So you tell me they didn't play anybody?
Don't mean. I'm saying these rankings don't mean anything. The only rankings that mean something come out November 3rd. Those are the rankings that mean something. These rankings don't mean anything. Because I don't know how good Georgia is. Georgia might go out there and get blown out by Alabama. They might finish the season 8-4.
They might.
We don't know that right now. Come November, we'll have a better idea where teams are based off of resume.
And that's why all three of us listed who we have in our 4 playoff positions.
Yeah, but you're giving Michigan State credit for a game that the team got 62
against Oregon. They beat Oregon. Utah beat Oregon. And we're giving Utah credit, right?
Was Utah in your top 4?
They're not in mine.
What?
So
you said we're looking at resumes.
Yeah, Utah beats Oregon at Oregon and wins by 42 points. Michigan State beats Oregon at home and barely wins, had to go to the last 4 minutes.
Yeah, it was like three points they won by.
And Michigan State is in, and Utah is not.
Yeah.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
Yes, it does.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad I'm not a coach.
How does that make sense? They beat Oregon. One team beat another team at the other team's home field by more points, yet they're not.
I said that I'm a traditionalist. Now, Michigan State is ahead of Oregon. Utah. Utah's working their way up.
Oh.
What's wrong with that? So as of this weekend, as of the end of this weekend, that's where I have my 4 teams.
The female population is glad you're not in charge of America because you'll be barefoot pregnant and at home.
All right. Well, hey, you know what?
Well,
Monday,
Zach, there's a lot of football to be played, so
we'll revisit it.
Of course, yeah. That's what's good for Utah now. But see,
we'll see who's closest on their 4 teams.
My whole thing in that was just to kind of point out what the problem is for teams.
Yeah.
Like I said, a team like Utah has to fight extra hard. And
yes, they do.
Go out there and have lackluster performance after lackluster performance. Play Michigan State, their only game of the year, win that one, and everybody says, "Oh my God, you're the greatest team on." Just like Alabama. Alabama coming into the year, you saw the problems, you've seen the problems, yet they were getting credit, and we're kind of seeing this play out. Now we'll get a better clue this week. But if Alabama does lose this week, just think about that. Somebody put them at number 1 or number 2 or whatever to start the season, and they will already be out of it. And I know it's all based on whatever, but that's so unfair for these teams. And I'm glad they did go to the 14 playoff because if not, no wonder only so many teams win a national championship.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And that's the beauty of it. We have 4 teams that have a chance. Even last season, and I'm not a Ohio State fan, but they got a chance, right? They're in there. Florida State, they got a chance. A lot of people was on Florida State. You ain't beat nobody. You got the one game against Clemson or whoever it was, and they didn't finish 1, but they didn't lose to where they couldn't fall out of that 4, and they had their opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's gonna get left out, but at least in this scenario so far, at least 4 teams get a shot at it. So, and it's interesting to see that we had about 8 teams there. So, hopefully one day there'll be an 8-team playoff. And then we can.
Well, I just hope the selection committee sticks it to the Big Ten this year and say you didn't play anybody in out of conference, so you have a loss. Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're going to send them a copy of this podcast so that they can. When they get to their big league.
They did a good job last year, so it's pretty much the same people. I think they will look at resumes, and that's all I'm saying. Don't look at the name of the team. Look at the resumes.
That's all we ask for.
Well, what I ask for is let's get a more balanced schedule than across the board. So then you can't hear. So that way we don't hear shouts. That that's the problem. We don't have it's not a 30-team league. It's not a 30-team league. It's not a four teams per division. You know, it doesn't have that in the college game. So, yes, you're right, Zach. They do play that at other levels of college football, and hopefully they can get to that. I mean, maybe this conversation here.
I'm saying stop playing 1AA teams.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm sorry.
Don't let them play 1AA teams, and more to the point, enforce the resume. If they start enforcing the resume, then teams will have to, no matter what conference you're in, you'll have to go out. But and in fairness to Ohio State, if you're going to get me in the playoff or make me number one, and I don't play anybody, I wouldn't play anybody, because why go to Texas or why go to Alabama or go wherever, take a chance at a loss when you can have a fluff schedule like a Baylor, and if you win your game, you're going to be in. So they need to enforce the resume.
Cool. Yep. Well, that was your closing comment, Zach. And did you have one, Calculator?
No, I mean, I'm just, like I said, I'm just ready for some football. Let's close with everybody sit back and enjoy a great weekend of football.
And I won't be here next week if George loses, by the way.
We will be on.
I'll be to run Mark Rick out of town.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll come up to Athens and find you. We'll stop by the local Ford truck dealership, and I'm sure, Rick could be there with his red Ford truck, and Zach will be somewhere nearby, ready to send Rick packing. Maybe back to Florida State, man. So, for the Calculator, for Zach, I'm Mr. 411. We appreciate you listening, and we will see you soon.
Have a good night, everybody.
Go Dogs.
There is no question. We are 411 Sportsworld podcast, where we bring you the real sports talk. Anything else in talks sports of the world is a nuisance. In comparison with our panel of informational experts. Now, there is no question. We are 411 Sports World Podcast. Thanks for listening. We will return tomorrow. Here's a tasty morsel. We're going to come back tomorrow for information. We appreciate you listening. You have been listening to the panel of experts, Zach, the Calculator, and Mr. 411. Tomorrow, possibly featuring Lacey Dawson. Again, thanks for listening to 411 Sports World Podcast, where we bring you real sports talk, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, tennis, sports lines, debates. You want it, we got it. We give you clear, concise sports knowledge. Thanks for listening.